Well, hello there, friends, and welcome to Virtual Show, the only late night, late night, late evening, early afternoonish VR talk show that I know of. I'm your host, Wes. With me, as always, my good friend Roots. Roots, we did it, brother. We're on the air live.
Oh man, I was starting to have internet issues too at the beginning. I don't know, man. There was something trying to keep this episode from going live. We're gonna do it. We're gonna talk about Facebook ads, and uh, and yeah, I think it's been a conspiracy that all the way around. No, probably
Yeah, it
not.
seems like every time we have one of these hot button topics to talk about, we have to fight through all sorts of technical difficulties and otherwise unusual occurrences to get the info out there. But we made it. We're here, and I'm glad we're here because there is a lot to unpack today.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I want to take a little bit issue with Derail and him almost sidetracking my Father's Day gift for my dad because I saw that I got in the queue for that PlayStation 5 and then I was like, oh man, like it was like, okay, do I still because I'm planning on getting, I'm assuming he's not watching this. If you are, Dad, you're not supposed to watch this right now because I'm divulging your gift. We're seeing him this weekend. I'm going to give him the Quest 2, right? And so that's my big ticket gift is not for myself. Oh, but I was so tempted, Wes. I had the PlayStation 5 right within my grasp, and someone else got it instead. So,
Well, your day will come. I'm quite confident. People are getting PlayStations now, man. It's not everybody, not yet,
mm,
but it seems like the momentum of the scalpers is slowing. You know, like the people that are willing to drop, G notes on tech have done it now, and the rest of us are just patiently biding our time to when our turn comes. And a lot of us are having just that, having our turn come up. But it seems like every day on our Discord now, Derail's on there posting a link to where there's a PlayStation 5 for sale. So I'm confident to say that by the time Christmas rolls around, by the time Christmas comes and goes, I think that most of us that really want to have PlayStation 5s are going to have them.
there's going to be a time frame, though, Wes. If you wait too close to Christmas, you're going to be screwed, or you're going to be paying a lot of money. Or, no, I was thinking is like play it for a little bit and then resell it at the peak of Christmas, make a profit. You could do that as well. There's a lot of options out there, Wes. I
It's
just really
hard.
want to try. I just want to play Returnal. And the main reason is I was just talking to my son the other day, and he's got an interest to try it. So now I've got another reason to potentially get one. So we'll see. I don't foresee it in the near future, but who knows?
It's hard not to unload some of this tech while the price is high, right? I just got on a whim decided to look at pre-builds the other day. I know a couple people who are looking for gaming PCs right now, and they kept telling me about these low spec builds that they were about to drop 2 grand on, and I'm like, dude, I can find you a better computer than that for that kind of money. Just let me take a look at it. So I go take a look at it, and guess what, Roots? I can't. Like right now, a basic build with a Ryzen 5 3600 and a GTX, not RTX, GTX 1660 Super.
Oh God.
These are going for 2 grand right now. That a year ago, that was $1,000 to $1,200 build. Now it's a $2,000 build, which makes me confident if I wanted to unload my PC, $3,000, $3,500 I could probably get for it.
Yeah, and then you'd be kicking yourself like, oh shit, I need to get a PC. I actually,
Right.
you'd probably take your kid's PC. Like
And
I'll just borrowing
Xbox.
it for a couple little bit. It's your old PC anyway, right?
Well, we could do the show through Android, right? I can just get one of those little clamp things for my phone and we'll just do it that way.
Some people actually were saying that last night that we could do the show from chat, and I said because we were all in the chat for so long after, and I did have the thought at some point, and I'll probably never do it, but how cool would it be? It would probably be pretty stupid. To sit here with actually probably sit a little bit further back, but with your in the headset, doing the show from within the headset and reading the chat. But then I thought, that's kind of like Anthony wanted to be um in a tank, aquarium, in a suit with a headset in while he's scuba diving. It's kind of unnecessary.
You know, we could put like a contingency plan in place next time this happens. And for those of you who don't know, we plan to do this episode late night, last night, as we always do. But 30 minutes before showtime, my internet service provider decided that they were going to have planned maintenance. So my internet was down for like 5 hours last night, and we couldn't do the show. But if we had some kind of venue like that, some kind of mobile online venue that we could meet in. I mean, that might be audio only or whatever, or we could have some kind of a avatar or what have you. That would at least allow us to get the show out.
Can I have a baby Groot avatar? That would be cool. It's
Sure.
probably copyright not protected, right?
Right.
So
But I'm glad. I'm glad that we made it. I'm glad that we're getting to have this episode because I feel like it's been a while since we had one of these. Typically we'll have one of these hot button issues that takes place, and then we'll have a very emotional response from the community. And generally, there isn't a lot of logic applied to these types of situations, and that's where we come in. We kind of play devil's advocate to the conventional wisdom. We come in and apply a little bit of logic and thoroughly dissect these issues, and generally at the end of the day we all walk away feeling a little bit better. And it's been a while since we had one of these, but this is a big one, right? You saw the response to the announcement of, let's be honest, it is what it was, a test for advertising in VR games, an announced limited test, and it was met by overwhelming negative response. And I mean, there's a lot that was said, there was a lot that happened, and there's a lot that it's going to affect going forward. So I'm glad that we get to meet here and really thoroughly go over it.
absolutely, and I'm glad that I get to find out right now in real time. Diz the Game Cat, did you or did you not pick up your PS5 today? When no, oh man, he's like me, dude. Well, that's the thing. Like, I was actually in a position to where I was off work already, and I was sitting here, and I was like, I mean, I could have gotten the PlayStation. I mean, there was nothing stopping me from doing it. That's why I was like so tempted to do it. I was like, oh man,
Right.
I want to play Returnal. Wes has got that in my head. I want to beat it. But it'll come.
Yeah, it was a tough week, right? Last week was the week of the free stuff, but this week is the week of killer deals, and it's not just software; it's also on hardware. I mean, I even broke down and spent hundreds of dollars this week on hardware just because I couldn't help myself, Roots.
I got myself a new Bobo VR coming. Have you
Yeah,
tried that? Did you actually put it on your face yet or no?
yeah. I haven't really had a gaming session in it, but I did try it on. Um, Jury's out on it. Like, it's comfortable at first. I will say that, to put it on, it is comfortable. My questions lie with these prongs. It has two prongs on the front of it that rest on the top of your head to kind of take the weight away from your face and put it on your head. And it
Okay.
does that effectively. My question is, an hour in, 2 hours in, does that start to wear on the spots that it touches your head? I
Uh,
don't know. Maybe your head holds up a little better than your face does, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's something that gets irritating over time. I'll be sure to let you all know when I find out.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna say my guess is it's not gonna do that because it's got such a positive response, especially in the Facebook community. That's like the number one thing recommended. Mash is like, dude, he's like trying to push it down people's throats. It's so good. So I'm excited to try it.
You know who loves it when people try to push things down their throat?
My
Oh
mom!
wow, I don't know. She's frisky today.
Anyway, lots to talk about today, lots to unpack with the topic today, but we're not going to jump right into it. We do have some first impressions of a couple of fairly high profile new releases. We're going to talk about A Rogue Escape, a game that we have talked about more than a couple of occasions on our channel. We finally got our hands on it, as well as Smash Drums, which is one that kind of snuck up on me out of nowhere and just ended up falling into my lap. We got some impressions on that one as well. But before we get to that, let's kick it off the way we always do by saying hello to our friends in chat. And of course, Diz, the Game Cat, is in chat, and Diz didn't get his PlayStation. He confirmed that
Mm.
in the chat a moment ago that he too is still searching. But I say chin up. I say chin up, Roots. I say chin up, Diz. I think you guys are going to get yours soon when the time comes.
Yeah, I just saw an article today, and now people are complaining that people that already own it, someone like you, are getting emails for like advanced. Hey, you want to buy a PlayStation 5? And they're like, dude, that's not cool, man. They already got one. I think people are freaking out for no reason. I think it's just a piece of
Well,
hardware.
Sony kind of hurt my feelings a little bit because I've never got any of these emails. I have three uh, PlayStation accounts for
Mm.
myself, and then every one of my family members have a PlayStation account as well. None of us have ever gotten any of these emails, and some of my accounts are fairly old. I mean, dating back to the PlayStation 3 days, and the onset of the PlayStation Network. And I've always been a big proponent for Sony and the PlayStation platform and PlayStation VR. I've got many hundreds of hours on their platforms. I'm just kind of wondering what criteria did they use to offer these to people, because I never got an invitation at all
Mm.
before I had my PlayStation ordered or after. I've never gotten this email, and it kind of hurts my feelings a little bit.
It's for the hardcores, Wes.
Right.
Apparently, you're not hardcore enough, bro. Like that, all that you just listed, it's not enough. I maybe
Right.
Derail gets it. I don't know. Maybe it's based on how many games you buy. You buy a lot of your stuff disc wise, but I guess they still have an idea what you have in your library, right?
Yep. Yeah, hundreds of games in my PlayStation library, and not a day goes by that
Hmm.
someone in my household isn't playing PlayStation. In fact, I've got my PS5 in the living room now. I moved it in there a few days ago because Ratchet and Clank came in
Ooh.
from GameFly, and they've been playing it every day. Not Ratchet and Clank, but they've been playing Bug Snacks every day. It's kind of weird.
That is weird. I'll tell you what, if I had two packages to choose from, Wes, one was the digital with just the controller, and then the other one had Ratchet and Clank and was $100 more, and of course it was the disc version. And I was thinking about getting the digital one. I was like, because I don't have my library anymore, and shows you where we've gone, right? So,
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, for someone like you who doesn't have a pile of discs to fall back on, I think the digital probably makes more sense, honestly, because I mean, sure, you may have to pay a little more w- during these very rare occasions that the disc is on sale and the digital isn't. But I mean, you're starting out, $100 to the good. So
mm,
how much money are you going to lose over time? I would say it's going to be a while before that $100 gets burned through, right?
yeah. Well, I may go the other way. Well, by the time I end up buying it, because as I'm talking about it, I'm thinking, well, it is a Blu-ray player, and I don't have that anymore. So that was my own when I had my PS4. That was my only way to watch any DVDs if I did, which I didn't do much of. But I've got the Bible series somebody gave me. I have no way to watch it because I don't have a DVD player anymore. So that would be one way I
Right.
could do it, right? So,
There you go. Zayla Maru joining us in chat says the email was the only way I was able to get my PlayStation 5. It took 7 months to get the email.
mm,
Uh, Traveling Man 3775 with us. Advertisers could pay me to wear a 3D billboard on the back of my avatar to travel across the social spaces. Yeah, dude. I'm just saying, we don't have any paid sponsors yet there, advertisers. Virtual
oh,
strangers up for grabs.
that's true. That's true.
Mash Daddy in the chat, as always, says Roots, get the PS5, bro. Yeah, he knows. He knows what's up.
Yeah. Well, I what Mash just said is like deprive your dad of of VR because he had the
Right.
Oculus Go. He really enjoyed it. I don't know why he never got either of the Quests. I mean, I'm sure been on his radar, but guess we'll find out.
Mash Daddy also says my 2080 Super up for sale, $2,000. You could probably get it right now, honestly.
Yeah, to the right buyer.
Uh, right, exactly. You can't. Those 1660s are all that you can buy right now. Like, I think it's all they're manufacturing.
I'd think about it. If I had something like a 1080 to fall back on or something, I'd contemplate it, right? I don't, it's my only
Right,
card. What do I do?
right.
Yeah,
Because if you can hold out 6 months to a year, you'll be able to get something else for sure.
I don't know. And my confidence in the world right now is zero. I don't know as far as everything we've always known. I just don't know. That's the thing, man. I thought by now we would have already been getting these video cards. I didn't don't the decisions being made. Why would you bring out a 3090 series? Why would you bring out even a 3080 Ti? You can't put any of this in anybody's hands. Most of them, I mean, just like put them all into parts that people are buying. It's just crazy to me. That one card that's $5,000, they're only making 1,000 of
Yep.
them. Like,
Right.
it's just to me, we're in crazy town.
Yeah, I agree with that. But for what it's worth, the industry speculation is 6 months to a year on graphics cards. PlayStation's not so scarce anymore. Sony planning to deliver 22 million of them, setting a record in fiscal year 22. So or 21 rather. So I mean, it is getting better. It's hard to see it at this point. But the market is adjusting to the new reality of the supply chain. And luckily, the gamers don't seem to be the ones that are totally out, on the outside looking in here. There is uh, increasing supply in the areas where we would want to see it. So,
I want to start doing some crypto mining, Wes. How do I do that with my 2080? I've been
well,
missing out this whole time.
it's that crypto mining is the reason why things are supposedly looking up for the graphics cards market. Cryptocurrencies have fallen, and generally when cryptocurrencies fall, demand for graphics cards fall. So that's where the optimism is pretty much coming from on that front.
Oh, nice. Mash Daddy coming through with a $5 donation says wheel and pedals and stand came already today.
Wow,
Amazon
man.
wins and his wallet loses the battle. Well, it's a good battle to lose now. See, that's the only way I can imagine that wheel and pedals is everything that I would expect it to be. Is with the actual stand and it's stable. It's not moving anywhere. It's doing everything you're supposed to do with it. I don't necessarily know that was my experience with it. So, um, that's cool, Mash.
Yeah, you gotta have you gotta have the stand. Eric, and thanks for the $5 donation, by the way, Eric. Eric ordered exactly the same thing that I ordered about an hour before I ordered it because I went on the Discord thinking out loud, telling people, here's what I'm thinking, what should I buy? And making the argument, thinking out loud on the Discord, and my thinking out loud talked Eric into buying what I was thinking about buying. So he bought the wheel, and then I bought the wheel, and then I remembered Roots' experience trying to keep this thing attached to a table, and so I started shopping for stands, and I found a pretty good deal on a stand. Generally, those go for well over $100 to get a decent one. I found a one with over 1,000 good reviews on Amazon, and I think I paid like $70 for it.
Ooh, nice.
Uh, Prime Day sale, and showed it to Eric, and sure enough, he's like, "You know what? We got to have that, don't we?" I'm like, yeah, we kind of do. So again, he ordered his stuff just before I ordered mine. He gets his today. I get mine tomorrow. So
Nice. That's awesome, bro.
yeah, I mean, it just happened that just so happened that mine's going to show up on my birthday, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome, bro. Tomorrow's your birthday?
Tomorrow is my
Oh,
birthday,
happy early birthday.
and thank you. And honestly, the wheel purchase has nothing to do with that. The wheel purchase has more to do with the recent news about PlayStation 5 VR.
Mm.
As you know, the way I do these purchases, I'm not a rich guy. I have to save up for them. And as soon as I bought my PlayStation 5 and my graphics card, I started saving for PlayStation 5 VR, which I always kind of expected to come late next year, but we really didn't have anything that really to go with behind that other than just what we thought. So a couple of weeks ago, when these different manufacturers and news outlets kind of confirmed what we suspected, that it is going to be probably another 18 months before we get to PlayStation 5 VR. Now all of a sudden I've got credit card points and Amazon gift cards that I've saved up over the last almost a year that I don't really need for that because I have enough time to save up for it again. So, I thought, well, I've wanted this wheel and pedals for a long time. I have a lot of practical use for it outside of gaming as well. So I went ahead and pulled the trigger on that.
Oh, are you gonna do that? And this is actually not a joke. own it. That where you can be a truck driver. That's pretty cool, actually. You can like go across the country, right? Um,
Well,
I'm
one of the things that I'm sorry.
I was gonna say that what's cool about the whole thing is you've got your G2, right? This is like your first instance where the G2 can shine because there is no controller, no tracking. You got the steering wheel. It's gonna be 100% perf. This is for the Sims, is why people say the G2 shines, right? So that's awesome.
Well, there were two really underlying factors, other than the fact that I had money burning a hole in my pocket. One was the Steam Next Fest, and one of the titles that I noticed that is coming soon that was showcased during the Steam Next Fest was this driving school simulator. And as you know, I've got children coming of age, and one of my thoughts behind getting a wheel and pedals was why don't we get them a couple of years behind the wheel before we put them on the road?
Mm.
And then I saw that driving school simulator that basically is there to teach people how to drive in VR. And it all kind of lined up perfectly. The second underlying motivation that I have is Scion's dominance in grip.
Mm.
That can't stand, man. If he wants to stab me in contractors, that's one thing. But I'm tired of this guy's smug attitude when it comes to racing. We got to take him to the cleaners Roots.
You're going down, Scion. Actually, I'm thinking about buying Dirt Rally too. Radio Runts, even with my controller, man, I don't know. Can you play that with a controller and actually have it be fun? I thought the hills kind of intrigued me. And somebody told me there's an option to get that guy out of your car. And I mean, there you go. You just bought me. You just got me $5, bro, on Steam. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was $5 on Steam, and it supports the True Force. One of the features I got the newer Logitech wheel that has the HD haptics True Force,
Mm-hmm.
and Dirt Rally 2, one of the titles that supports that. So
Nice.
that was kind of a selling factor for me as well.
Well, let me know if it's worth it for
Yeah.
sure.
Anyway, that's enough jibber jabber. We have a lot to unpack here, and not much time. We do have a hard out, so because I do have to work tonight, so we don't want to spend too much time jibber jabbering. Let's get to the meat and potatoes, and let's talk a little bit about a Rogue Escape. A Rogue Escape comes to us from Spare Parts Oasis by way of Armor Game Studios. This title is now available on Steam as well as the Oculus Rift store and the Oculus Quest store for $20. So this is one that grabbed our attention recently. And again, before we start, I'd like to thank the good people at Armor Game Studios, Spare Parts Oasis, for providing Roots and I with review access here. This is a game that grabbed our attention months ago as they released a teaser trailer with what seemed to be some fairly pretty graphics and an intriguing concept for an escape room. This escape room is no mere escape room. The premise of the game here is that um, you're in this kind of world where there's a ruling class and kind of a slave working class, and there are areas uh, in this underwater society. By the way, this entire society is taking place in the ocean of some planet. But there are areas of the underwater world that are only meant for the elites, the higher ups, where you are a working class slave, if you will, who
Mhm.
has escaped, and you have commandeered one of these underwater mech, um, or nautocrawl units, as they like to call them, to escape. And that's kind of the premise of the game, is that you're in this gigantic monstrosity of a underwater mech. But again, you're an uneducated working class slave who has no idea how to drive this thing, how to even start it. So that's the idea behind the escape room. You're trying to get this thing started and moving so that you can escape. And as you begin to get things moving a little bit, you start to move through what is a maze of highly guarded corridors, and you have to find ways to make your way through that undetected. Uh, and generally, that consists of um, disguising yourself as as someone who's authorized to pass, or maybe scrambling the signal from the turrets that are scanning your mech to make sure you're all legit. There's any number of ways that you can employ to accomplish going into these corridors. Roots, when I started playing this, it was all so far so good. You go through your little intro sequence here. You go up this elevator thing that allows you to look over the landscape or seascape, if you will, to see what is very much a bustling place full of workers and different machines doing different things. It's a pretty nice view, breathtaking almost. And then the elevator makes it to the top, the window closes, and now you are confined to this space. No windows, just a bunch of buttons and levers at your disposal. And I found that contrast uh, largely to be the story of this game. I was expecting a lot more um, uh, eye candy, for lack of a better word. The things that are rendered here are beautifully rendered, but I was expecting the game to give us a lot more to look at in this underwater world. And at least through the early part of the game, I didn't play very deep into it. I gave it a little bit of time, but at least through the early part of the game, there's nothing, man. No windows, no nothing, and I found that to be a pretty big disappointment.
Yeah, yeah. I there was one opportunity, and like you said, I didn't finish it myself either. I probably got close to where you got, but I definitely would love to see what's going on outside of there. I am feeling a little claustrophobic. I'm in this ship. I don't know what the hell's going on, bro. Like I'll tell you what, the first like 30 minutes, talk about frustration.
True.
Because there is zero hand holding in this game. Zero, none. I mean, absolutely nothing. And if you don't find that thing that's in that person's hand, there's no way you could do it. I do. It's definitely a trial and error, and that's my biggest thing that drove me crazy is the power and the cycling the power
Oh
and
God,
and
yeah.
over and cranking, and there's a whole cycle. But I mean, I will say this: by the time you get to probably where you're at and where I'm at, you have a very good idea of how the ship's running and what does what. And so, the whole beginning of it, or at least the parts that I've been to, I kind of feel like it's just getting you used to what's going on, what does what, how do you, which switch is what, blocks the signal to the towers and just all that different stuff, right? There's just a lot of information.
Yeah, yeah, that was one of the pluses to the game for me. It was the difficulty of it. This is not an easy uh, puzzler by any stretch of the imagination. Uh, there's a lot going on here. That you have to infer. Now after you do a little bit of trial and error at the very beginning, which is very frustrating because nothing seems to work, yeah, you do find some clue of how to start the thing finally. But even that, there's like 10 things or so that it shows you. Only about the first 7 or 8 makes sense. Even the last 2 or 3, I still don't know what they mean. Um, but after you get it started, the game does become rather enjoyable because you start to move throughout the corridors. You can learn through reading ship logs and other clues that you find along the way how to go to each of these enemy turrets and rob them for information, parts of the story. You can surveil the enemy security communication so you can know what they're saying about you and how they're going to approach you. And most importantly, you learn how to loot these things. So you find fuel, you find batteries, stuff like this, so you don't have to go back to cranking the battery up by hand and all that stuff as often as you did in the beginning. Um, I found all of that to be rather fun. Probably my favorite part of it was the story. Uh, the story is very intriguing here. This kind of whole dynamic you have going on, where the elites are obviously so afraid that anyone from the working class is going to make it to the other side of the walls and find out what's back there.
Mm.
Um, their fear really propels you to want to infiltrate this place, doesn't it?
Yeah, I want to get back there and know what I want to tell everybody what's going on, what's behind the curtain. Traveling Man says, don't run the cloak when you don't need it. The power consumption is reduced greatly. So, yeah, I'm probably running everything. I just cranked everything on, just like, yeah, it's good. Um, and that's the thing is like, especially there's so much involved with it's just repetition, that flipping the handle, all that, the whole setup to turn that power back on, the cranking it, the hitting the button. Um it's a lot of work, Wes. And
Well, that's kind of my problem with the game here is it's this. I mean, it's compelling from a story standpoint, but is it fun to play after you learn how to drive the mech and move? Is it fun to play? I don't know, man, because you get this feedback loop where again there's no windows here though. The way that you're steering this thing is through like a very small 3D radar type display that shows you which ways you can go, and there's little symbols on the map for the different obstacles and turrets and things that you encounter. Um, but it's a whole cycle of charging everything up and getting it to where you can moving a very small amount of space. You can't move very far before your batteries
mm,
start to drain or you encounter something. Then you encounter something, you connect to it through like this internet link, and then that unlocks text on a screen, and you'll get text of ship logs, you'll get text of communication, and you'll get text of inventory that you can loot. The entire game is played through interacting with this text. It's all on like a monochrome screen where you're telling it what to do and giving it very basic yes no commands. You'll read some of the story, you'll grab some of the loot, you'll power the ship back up, you'll move 3 more feet, lather, rinse, and repeat over and over and over again. And that gets old quickly. As compelling as the story is, the gameplay loop gets old very quickly. And that's why I said at the top that I kind of feel like the story of the game is that there's no windows here. Because I feel like if there were windows, and maybe there is later in the game, I just didn't make it that far. Uh, if there were windows and you could at least see where you're at, if there were some reward to movement giving you more of this underwater scene, then I at least would feel a little bit more compelled to deal with this constant loop of moving a few feet and then reading, moving a few feet and then reading some more. Um, the challenge is good, the story is good, uh, but I'm not so sure that this is what I would call a fun game.
you don't like doing this over and over again? It is definitely, yeah. I mean, that was my exactly my thing as well. Um, and hopefully there'll be more to it. Maybe, maybe that's the whole thing when are able to see out there. Maybe you're not even, who knows? Maybe what we think it is, it's not even really that. You know what I mean? Like it seems like they're really want maybe just going around in circles in this hallway. I don't know. You know what I mean? We think we're underwater. Maybe we're not even underwater. I mean, I can kind of see
Right.
through that portal up top. That's about it.
Right, right. That's very true, and it is important to state that these are first impressions. This is not a review, and this game very well could take off. Had I made judgments on so many other games with this much playtime, I would have missed out. Like imagine if we'd played Wraith Oblivion for this amount of time and then passed judgment on it. Like a lot of other places did, right? We would have missed out on one of the best releases of the year. So my whole thing is here. Um, I mean, how long is it going to take to take off? I mean, you get 2 hours. Most people will return this before that 2 hour mark is up, because after that point they can't get their money back. And this is a $20 game,
Mm.
which I mean, it may not sound like much, but in VR terms, I mean, $20 is not insignificant. I would like to see this game, Roots, if not on a sale pretty quickly. I would like to see this game on Viport Infinity. I think that this is a perfect kind of game for that kind of subscription service where people can really afford to put some real time into it. People who like this sort of game. Obviously, games like this aren't for everybody, and a lot of people are going to nope out within the first 30 minutes. Um, I'd like to see I like to see people who are into this type of game have the opportunity to really play through it with no penalty of being stuck with a game that they don't want to play.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you forget the fact that we're living in the beginnings of literal idiocracy. So this kind of game is a gamble to begin with because you have to actually think within the first like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Like, oh God, people are noping out. I guarantee people are gonna nope out. A lot of them just because the beginning is kind of vague as far as what's going on. It's a lot of trial and error. I thought it was kind of cool. I mean, I would rather have a good story to pull me through and something that's repetitious like this than the most amazing gameplay that is empty.
Right.
Like I need to have some kind of a story. So I am intrigued to know what's going on in here. My thing is, am I intrigued enough to play it or watch it? Because I'm tempted to just watch a YouTube video and find out what's going on because my frustration, I get at my patience level is not like yours. I don't know if I can take the full thing of stop and go. There's got to be something. Are we missing something, Wes? That's what I kept thinking. Maybe
Well,
there's something a switch I can find or something I can do to make this energy not drain so fast. And apparently, not having certain things on. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe we got unnecessary equipment on, Wes.
well, that is a little bit of a flaw. I mean, part of the beginning instructions tells you to turn your invisibility cloak on, and I call it an invisibility cloak because it makes you invisible to the turrets. It doesn't like literally make you invisible. I don't think. But the thing tells you to turn it on, but it never tells you that you should only pick and choose when you use it. Right? You have
Mm.
to figure that out for yourself. Um, but yeah, there are things missing here, and I think that kind of goes to my underlying problem with it. This was a remake of a fairly well received traditional flat game. And I agree with the developers. The developers thought, with this type of game, VR is kind of a perfect fit because instead of pointing and clicking, now you can interact with all of the switches and everything to become way more immersed in the game. That's all well and good, but you can't take a half step when you're coming into VR. There, you got to go all the way with it, right? And that's not only to speak of the lack of visuals. I mean, what's with all the text, man? Like, could they not afford voice actors? Could they? I mean, if we're patching into enemy communications, right, and intercepting messages that are between these different security outposts, wouldn't it be way more immersive if we kind of tuned into it like a radio and listened in? I mean, that only seems to make all the sense in the world to me. Uh, they could have done a lot to take this game out of the realm of text and put it into the realm of VR. And I kind of feel like VR is a perfect fit for this kind of game, but this iteration is not VR enough.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean a lot of games do that, right? And you're like, wait, it's 2021. Or, remember back in the day, you'd see the same thing when they finally started putting like real people video and in games, but then some games wouldn't do it. And you're like, why not? Right. This is
Well,
kind of one of those
it made me,
examples.
when I'm playing a puzzler like this, it made me think back to Myst. Myst came out, and it's the gold standard in these types of games. Myst came out, what, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and it featured what? It featured live actors, voice acting throughout the whole thing, and that's on the old flat traditional version of it. And here we are all these decades later in a virtual reality game, and the best they have is text on a screen with no
Yeah.
visuals, just one room, you know.
It's just it is what it is, right? I think it was the way they implemented the text to read it and stuff. It wasn't the easiest thing to do, like to go forward. I mean, I would have been happy with just every time something that popped up that I've read would disappear instead of having a big long list. I mean, it got to a point where I didn't know what I was clicking on if it was the I'm looking at a lot of the same stuff to make sure I've looked at that stuff as well because it's not just 30 different things down and that all says the same thing. There's no differentiate anything differentiating it. So
So you'll find yourself hooking to the same turret a couple of times and reading the same exact thing and saying, "Oh, okay, I accidentally turned around and got the same one twice." But then you'll go to the next one, and it'll be a completely new point to hook to, and it's still all the same stuff, right? You
mm,
might have an extra battery or something that tells you that, okay, this one's different from the last, but it's really no different, from point to point to point. It's all kind of the same thing over and over again. And that's why I keep going back to there needs to be more. I mean, progressing in the story is the highlight of what we have here. Make no question about it. I'm just not so sure that that's enough to pull me through this repetitive loop that they have going on here.
do you think someone like me that's not inclined to check every tower for the story is going to miss out on any of it?
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. And to be quite honest, I'm surprised you made it as far as you did, because that was what I was thinking the whole time is like, Roots isn't going to play this for 10 minutes. He's going to put this thing down immediately. And I'm quite certain if we weren't for sure going to be talking about it, you probably would have noped out a little quicker, huh?
That's exactly it. And now you know why when you said last week when you were on vacation, you're like, man, I just got in, I mean, it's a long day. You were going to scramble to get a show. You're like, I haven't played much of it. And I was thinking, well, no, I'm not going to carry the conversation because at that point I had already played a little bit and been like, this is crazy, bro. But I had to stop myself. I have been working on trying to work on more patience in my life in general and this is just trial and error. And then once like even the PDA that you have there on the tablet, the clues are very vague sometimes too. You're like, what the hell does that mean? What am I looking
Right.
for? So they did, this is definitely it's gonna stop you, make you think, and that's not a bad thing. And the story is good. It's just the things that we talked about are definitely things that could, make people go crazy.
Right. Right. So really my impressions of this are there is potential here. It could have definitely been brought into VR a little better, in my opinion. But again, I didn't play all the way through it. Now, from reading reviews and the like, I have been able to tell that this isn't the longest game in the world, few hours tops. So I probably will revisit this from time to time, and if it makes a drastic change between now and whatever the payoff is, I will be sure to let you all know. But right now, for $20, I would say wait for a sale, unless you're just really into this type of game. somebody like Chris Richardson in the chat says he generally doesn't get into escape rooms because they don't have any story behind them. Well, I mean, there's no lack of story here. There's a very good story here. It's the highlight of the game. So maybe somebody like Chris would like it. Um, I would have liked to have seen more. I was really looking forward to this and had higher expectations for it. And maybe that's on me. Maybe that's the problem, was my expectations going in. Um, but it's not a bad game. I just wouldn't call it a great game either.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe, like you said, maybe after getting further in, you might revisit that and change your mind on it. Could be a slow burn, right?
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be the first, would it? I mean, we've seen games like this before that are frustrating at the beginning, and take for example Intruders, which is a different type of game, but very frustrating at the beginning. But if you stick to it and you ride that one out to the end, it's one of the most rewarding story experiences I've ever had in a VR game. Um, yeah, that one very quickly changed to a highly recommend from I'm not so sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, let me ask you this, just because I see Dark Angel's last was the last comment in there. Have you ever this is totally off the subject thing? Did you ever try to shoot yourself in Audica, like
I
in the
don't
head or
think so.
whatever?
Not that I can recall.
Okay, because she whispered me that and asked me that question, and I said I didn't, I had never done that. And I guess there was some kind of a psychological conversation, or I don't know,
That's what I
about
was about to say.
yeah. So
Is it
I went in and I tried it, and guess what what happens? It like changes colors and stuff. And I guess the whole thing was like, is that a good thing to have in VR, right? Because like super hot VR, you're one of the things you literally have to do is kill yourself, right? And that was the whole, I guess, question is it a good thing in VR or whatever? I just thought it was bizarre. I never thought to shoot myself in the head with a in Audica. And so I went in and I tried it, and that was kind of cool. I don't know that I'm still opposed to shooting myself. I don't want to die in any way. I think suicide's not good, even in a game. So
well, the day's coming very soon where these sorts of actions, it isn't going to just change colors. It's going to put a little tick mark on your profile,
ooh,
and the algorithm may suggest some counseling to you or something after you leave the game and you're Googling uh, whatever it is you're interested in. You may see a little ad banner for how are you feeling, Roots? Is everything okay?
yeah, yeah, that was weird. When you were saying all that, you became a robot for a second. But I did come through, but I thought it was weird as you were. It's that censorship, you know. But yeah, no,
Uh,
I just thought that was weird, and like Dark Angel said, she was wondering if why they put that in there. That was kind of weird. I thought that was weird as well, and I never dawned on me to try that, but it was definitely bizarre.
Scion VR, a game like this is made for a very small group of people who don't mind repetitive puzzles. Yeah, I didn't mind the puzzles so much either, but it was what came after the puzzles. It wasn't really so much puzzle solving as an exercise in multitasking. Like you've got your screen over here with your text on it, and then you have your controls, which you have now figured out. And it's a repetitive loop of charge your batteries, set your cloak level, move down the corridors, connect to another turret, read the text, loot the thing, charge your batteries, set your cloak level. It's just repetitive over and over and over again. And the loop isn't like a 10-minute loop, it's like a two-minute loop that you just over and over and over again do. You're not moving very far at all before you have to stop. Um,
I laugh
and
every
again,
time you say that because literally you move forward like 2 or 3 times. And when you push forward
yeah,
on that lever, it's like you move a tiny space. Like if it
right.
was a game board, it would be like on of life, you would move one space. And so you're moving 1 or 2 spaces each time or 3 spaces, and then you have to do the whole rotation again. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's like dash movement, and you get like two dashes, three dashes, and then you have to repeat the cycle. And and again, the only reason that you even know you're moving in the first place is because of this little tiny radar thing in front of you. Other than that, you would never know it, right? I mean, you got the screen, like you can do things to damage your ship, running it into walls or whatever, or interacting with these turrets and being attacked, but you wouldn't know it. It just says it on the screen. Shields at 69%, shields at 53%, damage, hull damage reported. You're just reading it pretty much.
Or
So yeah,
everything goes black, and you're like, nothing's working, and you realize, oh, I died, and you have to hit the red button and restart. And
right,
that was what was weird for me.
right. The game could have utilized VR to so much more than what it does, and yeah, I think that's that. Again, it wasn't terrible. I did enjoy my time in it. It didn't quite live up to my expectations.
So let me ask you this: would you enjoy it more for $10 instead of $20? Although we did get it for
I
free.
I certainly would be more apt to recommend it at 10. I think that it would be a very good $10 game, even 15. I feel like probably would have been a more fair price for it. I could see this being a $15 game that goes on sale for like 12. I think that would be fair. And again, it's difficult to say because $20 isn't a lot of money. We have to remember we're saying this in the context of the larger marketplace, right? That has amazing $5 games right now. Like I could probably do a list of 30 amazing games that you could buy for $5 or less right now.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the context here. It's an unfortunate situation for developers and especially new developers that want to make a VR game. Uh, you know, a lot of profit potential is left at the door when you go VR, and that's something that we're going to be talking about a little bit. We're going to hit upon with our topic today. But before that, let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about Smash Drums. Smash Drums comes to us from Podumworks SAS. This game launched via Oculus Quest App Lab and is coming soon to Pico Neo or the Pico family of headsets. It costs $20. And Roots, this is something that I've always kind of been vaguely aware of. I've seen it here and I've seen it there. And it really just kind of flew off of my radar, mainly because of its genre. It's another rhythm game. We have no shortage of rhythm games in VR. Beat Saber and Audica and Pistol Whip kind of hit it big. So now everybody's following suit, trying to do their version. And, 4 out of 5 new rhythm games are just carbon copy clones of the original good ones. But occasionally we come across something that does offer up a little something different. And while I feel like, of course, there are a lot of familiar elements here with Smash Drums, it does at least offer up a little something different, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely different. I did like the haptics as far as like in the like when you click the way that the drumsticks feel and sound. I felt like that was really authentic. I've always wanted to play drums, or at least I always felt like, maybe a lot of people feel this way about a lot of things, but I always felt like if I had tried, I could have been really good at it, but I never did. Just rhythm wise, right? But my thing is, this is one of those games that you were saying you were excited about the audio tracks or the music, right?
Yeah, well, I knew that this was a rock-based soundtrack, and that alone was enough to intrigue me. That and the fact that they have merch. Like, if I want to go buy one of their shirts, I can get a shirt,
Oh my
which is
god.
a big deal for me because I'm constantly looking for cool VR shirts. So, as long as this game ends up being good enough for me to recommend, I'll probably end up going and picking up a shirt.
Scion said he picked himself up a really cool mist hoodie, so maybe that's something we should pick up.
Oh, I'm sure they've got.
Matching mist hoodies, bro.
Yeah, I'm sure they have tons of merch. I mean, that game's a classic, and those guys, they know how to make money.
Yeah, and why not? I mean, you got so many fans already like Scion that are chomping at the bit to play. So this has got a demo, right? Dark Angel says really like the demo, but wondering if worth the full buy. Well, this is my initial thought. When I went in there and I was looking at the songs, which I was scrolled through, and that's why I kind of said that about the songs, because I was listening to the song selection and I was like, this is not what Wes was thinking it was going to be as far as heavy metal, because I didn't hear any songs at all. Sounded very popish. My biggest thing is there was only 21 songs. I was looking for the button to switch to the next selection of songs, and that was it. And so for $20, I don't know that that's enough songs for. Now I didn't play anything every song, but I did play like four of them. I don't know how many you got
Yeah.
into.
Yeah, well, you're right. And I didn't have any expectations for this to be a metal soundtrack per se, but I did think it would be a hard driving rock soundtrack, maybe some punk, maybe some nice alternative music. And there's a little bit of that in there, but I'd say a good 2/3 to 3/4 of the soundtrack is kind of like radio rock. It's pop rock. The kind of stuff that I don't like in any genre. I don't like pop country. I don't like pop rock, pop metal. I don't like pop music. And there's a lot of radio rock on here. And I'm sure that somewhere out there, Nickelback is very proud of this soundtrack and their influence on it. But it's not for me, bro. Now, with that said, there were a few good tracks on here. Typically, they turned out to be like the slower ones, like the slower alternative music. I enjoyed. Not that it would be anything I would listen to outside of this game, but it was good enough for me to kind of get into it. And the concept here with the drums, it is fun. It's fun to hit these drums. There is, like Root said, a good haptic feedback. Although I would have liked for it to be a little stronger. I feel like you're trying to get into a zone with this game. And I feel like if you're banging drums, it only makes sense for there to be a nice, strong
Mm.
haptic feedback. So I feel like maybe this game could be tweaked. And going forward here, I kind of feel like this is the overlying theme of the game, or my take on it is there. This is a good game, but there's a lot of things that they could tweak to make this a very good game. Over time as they continue to iterate upon it, and the haptics is one of them. I feel like they really need to turn the haptics up here and make it feel tactile. When you're banging this drum, you need to, as much as is as possible, make it feel like you're hitting a drum.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, to be clear, I was more on the drumsticks when they banged together. I totally thought the same thing on this. Now, let me ask you this, because this is the biggest problem I have with most rhythm games. Is there enough reason to get this? Is this any that much different than Beat Saber or other games that have all these different songs? And that's why one of the reasons why I say for 21 songs. And maybe it's just the music choices. I didn't care for most of the music, but I have a weird music choice anyway, so that could just be me. And what is the exclamation? Is that hitting it harder? I thought that's what it was, but I some of it was
No,
confusing to me.
no, there are different nuances to the game. You'll see certain drums will kind of be sparkly. They want you to kind of just barely hit those. And then there are other drums that have like flames coming off of it. They want you to hit those hard. And the ones with the exclamation point, those are a half beat off. So
Mm,
like you'll have a rhythm, boom pop, and then you'll have a half beat come in, and you'll go boom ba pop. So there'll be like an extra little beat in between the two, if that makes sense.
okay.
Boom ba pop.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. When you see those exclamation points, it's just a signal to you to know that the rhythm is barely changing there. You're getting in an extra beat where there otherwise wouldn't have been one.
Okay, so it's kind of like reading music, just needing to know what that means. And I was thinking about this, Wes, and because I'm not a drum aficionado, right? I'm not this expert. That if maybe somebody, and maybe somebody in the chat or the comments can confirm if they've played this game. Maybe there's something we're just missing because we're not drummers, right? Like maybe to somebody that's really into drumming, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, because I never really thought about the rhythm in that respect. But that is part of what makes drumming so cool is that type of stuff, right?
Well, I think that's the biggest plus of the game is that it is drumming, and obviously it's not realistic like real drumming. I have played around on drums before, and I've been around music my entire life. Both of my parents played in a band. I used to dabble a little bit when I was younger as well. So I've been around music, and I have played on drums. And I feel like while that is the biggest plus of the game, I feel like it kind of was one of the biggest things I feel like they could improve on is, you know, I feel like they need to pick, is this a drumming game or a rhythm game?
Mm,
And I mean that in the sense that the most gratifying thing about this is when everything's going right, and when you're in a groove and hitting all the beats, it feels great. It does feel like you're drumming, but they do things in the name of making it more difficult, making it more like a rhythm game, that are kind of antithetical to like what you would do if you were really drumming.
mm.
Which I feel like I get what they're doing. Again, they're trying to provide challenge, but this is hard anyway. Like this is not easy. This was much harder for me to pick up than Beat Saber or Audica or any even synth riders. Um, and what I mean is this: when you're drumming in real life, you know, this hand's always hitting the hi hat. This hand's always hitting the snare beats. Your right foot's always hitting the bass drum. In this game, you'll very much have the same thing going on, where you'll be hitting the cymbal beats with this hand, the snare beats, and the kick drum beats with this hand. But then they switch that up. So
Mm.
now the hand that you were using to hit the snare beats, now it's meant to hit the cymbal, and the ones that you were just hitting the cymbal beats with, now that's supposed to hit the bass drum beats. I feel like that they did that to kind of confuse the player and make it more challenging, make you want to memorize the maps. But I feel like this is a drumming game, so there needs to be, at least on some level, some principles of drumming that's incorporated into it that would make it not only more natural and easier to get into a flow, but it would also set it apart from the other rhythm games even that much more. So I feel like when they go to design their beat maps, or maybe even redesign the ones that they have out there, I would like to see them concentrate on more on, okay, your right hand is responsible for these beats, and your left hand is responsible for these beats. And then if they want to mix it up, make that one of the higher difficulty level things. Like I always played on either easy or normal, and it was hard. So uh, if I had to give them any advice, as someone who has played around on drums and is a little bit musically inclined, I feel like if they would incorporate more of the principles and philosophy behind drumming, and I know they know what I'm talking about. By the way, these guys that came up with this concept, I'm pretty sure, are drummers. So I think that they know exactly what I mean. And I think, at least on the lower difficulty levels, if they could make it feel a little bit more like you're actually playing drums, that it would really help the game a whole lot.
Well, I think that's a problem. Your different drum things, your cymbals not moving all over the place. It's not here and then there and then you know what I mean? It's always going to be in that one spot, and so that's where the rhythm comes, right? So wouldn't it be even more? It's like you see it coming down in different places, but you're hitting the same area, right? Where that drum would be. It would make it feel like you're really actually getting into the rhythm of the drums. Or unless you're just trying to be more of a rhythm game instead of just the drums that is gimmick, then
Right.
you get lost in the shuffle, I believe, because there's so many rhythm games out there. It doesn't set your game's now not set apart. It's now clumped up with everything that's out there. And
That's a good way to put it. Do you want your drumming to be a gimmick, or do you want this drumming to be a real part of this game?
yeah.
And I come to realize toward my later play sessions that there are some things that you can do to make it a little bit more of a realistic drumming experience. First of all, turn the 360 off. Make it so that it's coming at you from one direction that you can sit down and play it. That helps a lot. Secondly, at least for some of the songs, it was easier for me to play on normal than it was on easy, because I felt like on easy that there were beats that I wanted to hit that weren't there. And then in normal, there's a lot more drums coming at you. You can hit a lot more of the beats. So if you get into a real zone with it, the drum more often than not is going to be there when you want to hit it. So I actually found in some cases that normal level was easier for me than the easy level. The whole complication with it, and the thing that really annoyed me the most is what we already talked about. I'd be hitting the hi-hats with this hand and the snare with this hand, and then it would switch. Now, the hi-hats are over here and the snares over here. I mean, it makes you, it keeps you from getting in any kind of a zone with it. And maybe it's just me where I do have this musical inclination, and I know kind of the mindset you have to be in to play drums. And this kind of doing the opposite thing. Maybe it's something that's personal to me. But again, what you were saying, I think holds true here. If you want this to be a unique game, that you kind of need to incorporate some of the principles of drumming into it, or else it's just going to be just another, Beat Saber clone.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're going
Anyway,
up against Beat Saber, then you're going up against the library. Even if without the
right.
mods, there's so many songs that alone you lose, and then it's already it's so well accepted. Um, you know. And then let me ask you this, Wes, because Dark Angel said she tried the demo, and this made me think. Do you know how many songs are in the demo? Or I mean, it- I just wonder if there's even if you've played the demo and you've enjoyed the demo, is there enough reason to get the game? Like but I don't know how many songs are in there. So, but there's only
Yeah, and,
21 to
and
begin
I
with.
don't know how many songs are in the demo, and I don't know how many songs they plan on adding into the main game. What I can say is I had fun with this. It was different enough from the other rhythm games, um, that I did enjoy my time. I played it more than I had to, right? Like, we were going to review this last week, and we waited till this week for scheduling reasons. I played this more than I had to. I went back into it to play it for fun, because I did enjoy my time in this game. Uh, it's a good game. I think $20. If they're planning on adding a few more tracks, or even if not, I mean, it's different enough that I can recommend it at 20. I'd like it better at 15, but I can recommend it at 20. Um, but right now, it's a good game. There's a lot of potential here for this to be a very good game. If they do what I said, incorporate some of the principles of drumming into the design of the maps, the beat maps. And of course, I would like to see some improvement to the soundtrack. Not only more songs, but less poppy. I'd like to see some authentic uh, music here, or some authentic sounding music being added into this. That's kind of where I feel like Synth Riders was really shining at. Was their soundtrack is very good, and I feel like if they could just add a few more songs to this that sound maybe a little different from what they've got here, I feel like this game could be a no-brainer at $20 if they make the right moves.
This is just like the last game, a perfect game for Viveport Infinity, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think it would be a good game for Viport Infinity, especially the revenue the revenue system might actually work out for them, because this is a game that brings you back, and the Viport Infinity, the way they pay out, from what I understand, is by playtime. and this is a game that's going to bring people back. So I feel like any pricing structure really works for this game, and that being one of them. Again, though, they need to expand their soundtrack, and the songs need to sound different, because right now they all kind of sound the same, all with the exception of maybe 5 or 6 songs. They all kind of sound like exactly the same song to me. Yeah, I would say um, to Dark Angel, if she liked the demo, she's probably safe buying this at $20. Um, and people who are really into rhythm games are probably going to like it as well. I hope it continues to improve, because I did, again, I enjoyed my time in the game.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Anyway, I think that's a fairly good review from both Roots and myself. We both enjoyed our time in it. Of course, Roots really would like to see more songs, and I would too. But for me, it's not so much about the quantity, but the quality of it.
Right.
I'd like to see more diversity in the sound. 20 songs, if they were 20 good songs, it would mean a lot more than 20, carbon copy radio songs, right?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, as I scrolled through the songs, I was laughing because not that they were bad songs, I just knew that they were absolutely 100% not Wes's music. I was like, this is not,
Right.
because I know you're always looking for something like, because so many games, they seemed like they're going to have some good rock in there and then they just don't deliver, right? Not saying that this game, said that at all. It's just kind of what we thought, right? So,
So Gamer Chick 13 joins the chat, says apologies. Uh, we are the best. And she got a phone call at the wrong time. I guess she's apologizing that she wasn't here to kick the show off. No
mm,
apology necessary.
no, she came in and everybody said hi to her and she ignored all the things. I felt slighted. I was already texting her in Discord, writing her off. Let me delete that text now. But no, I know exactly what she's talking about because
She's taking that call that they're telling her it's go time. It's time for the Aftershocks update reveal. We're going to learn what that release date's going to be tomorrow, Roots, and that was, they were just calling her to tell her that.
that was the call, and she's about to let us know we're going to be the first people to talk about it. I don't know that I cared for the clicking the sticks together either. Just throwing my 2 cents. I don't know if that's 100% necessary or not. I know you do that as a drummer every once in a while, but like that often, that's very bizarre to me.
I liked it. What I didn't like about it was the drawback. So like you hit the stick, but there's not an actual stick there, right? It's the air. But when you draw back, it hits it again. So it's like click, click. I'd like it if they could, implement some kind of code in there to keep that drawback from clicking it on the way back out. Then I would have liked that mechanic a lot better, because it is something that you do as a drummer to keep time in the offbeats, but you generally don't hit it on the way back up. So that's my opinion on that. I feel like a lot of things in this game, that could it was cool, but it could be better.
My drumsticks were really heavy, Wes, with the Sonlocky magnets. And I was like, man, because I was thinking, what if these were really good? Because I love the way drumsticks feel. They're so light, right? You really boom, boom, boom. My controllers are not light at all.
Maybe we need some controller mounts, right, to mount sticks on there, so we can get that real feeling of drumming.
I think I need a second pair of controllers, so I have one for gun stock and one for not.
I've got that, but I still end up using the one with the 10 locking rings on it more times than not.
Yeah, I'm used to the weight now.
Gamer Chick says, is there something Wes knows that I don't about Aftershocks?
Uh-oh.
Right.
Wes has got the inside scoop. He's got an inside source, Tiffany, and her name is Gamer. Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
Now my source comes from having my finger on the pulse, Roots. I have these feelings, this intuition, and they end up coming true more than not.
Yeah, that's why you're in the right place at the right time.
That's right. And this is a good time and place to get to our topic of the day, as time is quickly winding down and there's a lot to talk about here. A lot of people up in arms this past week, Roots, as Facebook announced a VR advertising test last week, with Blast On being the only game specifically named as part of the rollout. Although there was a mention of, quote, a couple of other developers participating in the coming weeks as well. Blast On then faced review bombing on both the Oculus Store and Steam as players critiqued the addition of advertising to a game that didn't have it at the time of purchase. Since then, Resolution Games has announced that they will not be moving forward with the Facebook advertising test in Blast On, but the studio may still consider testing ads in its free fishing game, Bait. What time is it, Roots?
Quote time.
Quote time. That's right. This is Resolution Games CEO Tommy Halm. Quote, our mission at Resolution Games has always been to work to help the industry as a whole move VR forward for the good of everyone involved. Sometimes that means being the first to test some things to see what works and what doesn't. We appreciate all of the feedback and thoughts on the Oculus ad test for Blast On and other games that was announced last week. Some good points have been made, and we realize now that Blast On isn't the best fit for this type of ad test. Therefore, we no longer plan to implement the test in Blast On. As an alternative, we're looking to see if it's feasible to move this small temporary test to our free game, Bait, sometime in the future. We love this domain as much as the most avid players. If ads in VR become inevitable, as it has on other platforms, we want to ensure that while we have this chance to start over and do it right, that we do just that. We welcome any and all of your feedback along the way so that we can have a constructive conversation around this and create the best path forward, end quote. So Mr. Palm implies here that ads in VR are inevitable. Assuming that VR continues its current path of exponential growth, is it correct, Roots, or is this an inevitability for VR? Are ads coming no matter what?
Well, I mean, it depends. I'm a big believer that as much as we put up with will happen. I mean, we dictate with our dollars more than anything. And if people would band together, just like the Robin Hood with the stocks and stuff, I mean, a lot of things can happen that aren't supposed to happen. There's this thing that goes on in the world where the news or whatever they project, they say this is the way it is. It's inevitable, and they get people to accept that it's inevitable, and so they just allow it to happen. But then there's that other side that maybe it is inevitable. Financially, maybe it does help. These studios clearly. Resolution Games wants to do this. They just, it's cancel culture all over again. In gaming, where enough people come out and start screaming about something, and they just, instead of dealing with it, well, I guess they did deal with it. They just backed out and said, "Whoa, we're not doing this." It wasn't even like you've said. It didn't. Nobody. It's a test, and there's no boundaries. Nobody knows anything about it except for ads in VR. Yep. And it's such a bizarre thing to get so crazy about so quick without knowing anything about it.
Yeah, that was an interesting response there from the community. Very emotional response when nobody even knows what this ad test was going to comprise of. They just rejected it outright just because it's ads in VR. Delirium Drew says, "Bait, LOL. People be playing bait just to complain." Then he puts in quotation marks, "For the record, I don't support ads." So that's a very generalized statement there. I don't support ads, and we're going to dissect that. Please hang around. We're all going to have a conversation here, Drew, and I want to get your feedback as we move through this. So he's saying that Mr. Palm, that is saying that this is an inevitability for VR gaming, ads in games. Um, and the common, you know, the conventional wisdom would be that the reason he's saying that is because it is prevalent in traditional games. But is it? I don't know. I don't play enough traditional games to know. Roots, people in the chat, is this something that's common in traditional games? Is advertising a common thing now in flat games?
I mean, I would imagine it's probably there, and it's most of the time it's hidden, or it's something that you don't really see or doesn't affect anything. And that's my biggest concern with VR is anything that's going to break my immersion um is going to be suspect to me. And the way things roll out, everything is always benign when it first comes out. It's no big deal. Facebook alone being the person that's discussing this. If we were talking about Valve, there'd be a totally different discussion. Not that I would think there'd be any different, but in a lot of people's mind, it would. So, Facebook has already promised stuff and gone back on what they promised. They said there would be no login needed. Now we need a login. And we're living in that environment where there's a lot of distrust, right? And just even for instance, YouTube, I remember a time back in the day where YouTube, there was no ads. You didn't have a 5-second ad. And then there was a transition. Then it was like, okay, at the beginning of a show, you would see an ad. Then all of a sudden there was options to have them throughout the whole thing. And there, for somebody that I listen to a lot of music on playlist, I refuse to pay for the monthly service, um, just out of principle. But I'll be listening to a playlist of songs. I'll be in the shower, and then the ad starts, and it'll be in such a weird time. And there's so many ads, and I imagine myself playing in a VR game, and in between rounds of population one, I've got an ad or whatever, like watching YouTube VR, 360 videos or whatever, and you got those ads that pop up, and you got to wait for about 15 seconds. You know what I mean? Like it's a slippery slope, and so I understand why there's concern, but it's like uh, I think it's misguided concern. It's like, let's find out what's going on first. So.
Well, in the context of gaming, and again, we do have this 40-year-old example of traditional gaming to look at. You said that the ads are probably there, but you probably just don't notice it, or they don't affect anything. What about the traditional gamers? Is this something that they typically complain about?
No, not that I would know. And Gamer Chick's got a good point. That it's all about the developers. If the developers have control, I have no problem with. She makes an example. They've got a FedEx truck, but they can't say FedEx. But it would be cool to see a FedEx truck or a Coca-Cola bottle on the ground. I don't care about that kind of stuff. I think that would be really cool, and it would benefit. I just think it's funny because Facebook has kind of taken a step back, and I think even the developers have kind of said, "Hey, look, this is a developer thing." But then Facebook funds the games. I mean, I'm not naive enough to think that just because the Facebook couldn't just put an ad in there and say tell the developer you're doing this, and it's all under the guise that it's the developer choosing, even though Facebook is funding it or it's Facebook's game. So there's a lot of intricacies when it comes to that kind of stuff. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes. So
So Zaylan Maru in the chat says the stream is now starting to buffer. What did I tell you, man? As soon as we started on this topic, it was the technical issues were gonna pop up.
you know what's
And Traveling Man says he reloaded it and had to watch 2 ads to get back in.
what's ironic about it? Every time this has happened in the past, I'm looking at my OBS, and it's bouncing all over the place. It's red, it's orange, it's green, it's yellow. It's steady green, Wes. It's not dropping frames. It's not doing anything. So this is 100% on YouTube this time.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
so
But back to the conversation here. Tommy Palm, the CEO of Resolution Games, who obviously was the first notable person to say, "Me here, I'll jump in and test this in our game." I think it's notable here to point out that his background is not in traditional games, nor is it in VR games. This is someone who made their fortune in mobile games. He's the creator of Candy Crush, and ad based mobile gaming is something that is very prevalent. And so, taking that into consideration, I think things kind of make a little more sense now with why they would have been, first in line to to explore this possible new revenue stream for his company.
Yeah, absolutely. Traveling Man says it's probably alien mothership on the other side of the sun messing with YouTubers for fun. I 100% think that's correct. And I'll go grab my tinfoil hat. But it is odd though. It's very odd. But yeah, it's crazy.
All right, so Upload VR also asked Facebook for an updated comment on the ad test, and they also asked whether the other apps that will be tested are paid products. Facebook spokesperson said, quote, "We offer a variety of tools and support for developers so that they can choose what's best for their business in the long run. And we support them in what they choose. Ultimately, opening up new revenue streams for developers will help us to unlock new types of content on the Oculus platform and offer products at consumer friendly prices. Ads within apps are just one of the things we're exploring to help with this." So, interestingly, Facebook emphasizes here that all they've done is provide tools and systems for the studios to utilize. They seem to want people to believe that they aren't placing the ads in the games, but rather the studios who make the decision to do so. They understand that in the eyes of the public, they're the evil corporation that's always up to no good.
Mm.
But the developers are a different story. Everyone respects the studios that have invested so much into building up the VR platform, and we all really want them to succeed financially. So Facebook follows this up by stating that the ads are merely a tool to unlock new types of VR content and offer products at quote affordable prices. And we've spoken before on VR's pricing problem. We spoke about it just a while ago. There's so many great games that are available for just a couple of bucks out there, and it causes new releases to be underpriced just to compete. And it's this underwhelming potential for profit that keeps the big third-party studios from jumping into VR development in the first place. So my question to you, to the chat is, isn't Facebook justified in trying to find a solution to this problem? Because again, we all want these bigger games. We want the bigger studios to get in, but if they're going to be forced to price their game at 20 bucks, 25, 30, where they could go to the flat world over there and charge 70 bucks to a much, much bigger audience. Um, shouldn't Facebook be commended for trying to find some kind of solution to this obvious dilemma?
Well, yeah, I mean, it definitely is a dilemma. They partially created, I guess. I don't know. I guess they have to do it. They got to do something right. But the question is, my biggest problem with everything that's going on is the same reason why. I mean, people are flipping out about not knowing. We have no idea what this testing is. Well, solve that issue. Let us know what you're thinking. Like, what do you mean when you talk about advertisements? You know what I mean? Some advertisements are good. Like, and this is something I still worry about in just life. There's been talks about advertisements in outer space over the last several decades, and it's getting, I mean, like, there's just certain places that when I'm in VR, I don't want to see a bunch of advertisements, and it could become a place where it's like, man, this sucks, because it is a captive space. You are forced to be in there. And I don't want to go through a 10-second loading screen ad every time I want go into a game. But I have absolutely no issue with what Tiffany was saying with the FedEx truck or Coca-Cola placement products. We see that in every TV show, every game. It's out there. You know what I mean? Like, there is ways to advertise and have it be no big deal. And then there's ways to have it be completely uh, a pain in the ass for everybody, right? And that's the biggest thing is, like, I just think if they were a little bit more open about what they're talking about, and even after this backlash, Facebook still hasn't clarified what they're talking about. They've still left it very ambiguous, and that makes me wonder why as well.
Onakazi, of course, there was a negative reaction from the community. Look at the most recent videos from Thrill, Steve Nodes, almost everybody with titles like "The Most Terrifying Thing Just Happened to VR." Of course, these guys are hacks. Let's just say it like it is. It's clickbait, man. They're all about those numbers, and they're not trying to apply reason to any of this. That's why you got good old Wes and Ruuts here, willing to take the hit on the numbers to bring you the straight dope.
Yeah.
But with regards to this statement they made about quote new types of content for VR. Do you think that maybe this could mean like new free VR supported applications that are completely ad supported, kind of like a Net Zero? Remember, we talked the other day about Net Zero, the free internet service back in the dial up days where you got internet for free, but it was completely plastered on ads on it like a NASCAR or something. Do you think that maybe this new type of content they're talking about could be something like that, a completely free, free to purchase game or application that's wholly ad supported?
Well, I mean, Oculus has already been doing that with a lot of games, right? They've supported Rec Room. They've supported so many games that are free out there with nothing for the last 4 or 5 years. Maybe this is a way to recoup some of that money as well as put out more content like that, right? I mean, who doesn't love
Right.
free stuff? I mean, it depends on what it's tied to. My concern is it's starting. It's like and every state's this way. You get the lotto. Bring in the lottery, the lotto. We're going to give money to the schools, and then when it comes to give money to the schools, well, they give the money from the lotto. They just reallocate the money that was going to the schools from before, so the school gets nothing more. And so that's my concern is whenever you get big business in there, that's why I want things ironed out. I want to know what you're doing. And so we have an idea of where it's going instead of just being this weird blanketed, not really knowing what's happening. And so that it could go any which way. It could be, I don't know, like I said before, I'll use it as an example. We were told when it first, and anybody that's not naive said we knew, but we were promised you weren't going to need a Facebook login to get into a headset. And that changed a couple years. Once it became popular, it changed. So, just like in real life, if you have a known liar, somebody that was dishonest with you a couple of different times, are you now going to take them at face value and say, okay, they're now this time, this time is different. They're going to be honest this time. I'm less inclined to believe that, that it's not going to end up being our worst nightmare down the road.
Right. Well, I mean, to their credit, they are kind of trying to tell people it's not like they've been super secretive about it. As soon as they mention it, people just you know lined up with their pitchforks. So I'm sure that in time we're all going to know exactly what they're planning. Um, would you be opposed to like a free ad based option for like DLC? Like, say that we get an expansion deck for Demio down the road, and you could either pay for it, $10 for the paid DLC, or you could get the free version that maybe some of the cards have ads on them or something.
I mean, that would be up to the developers. I mean, I don't, as long as there's no advantage, I don't see why that would be a problem.
Do you think most people would pay for it or take the free
I think
version?
it's 50-50. I think some people would justify it and say, I don't care about the ads. And then there's other people that would say that, yeah, I don't want to see them. And it helps the devs even more because they're getting the ad revenue and they're getting this money. I'm a big believer of that not everybody has money, like even myself, I get all these free games and then when it comes down to buying them, I'm very picky on what I buy and why I don't think anybody's any different. So if you give somebody a chance to play something that maybe they would have never got a chance to, I'm for it. You know what I mean? Give people options for sure.
Oh, gaming science teacher client quietly slipping into the through the back whispers, "No, long time no see." She's interested in the topic, Roots, and she's in just in time, because I think that an option, ad-based alternative to paid DLC would be a compelling option, and I think that most people would take the free version. And I think that the example you gave earlier of YouTube Premium versus free YouTube is a perfect example of that, because we all have the opportunity. We all watch YouTube and we all hate the ads. I hate the ads. They drive me nuts, but it's not enough to make me pay for it. And I think that that's what we're going to see here. If this happens and we get free options when it comes to otherwise paid DLC, I think more people than not are going to put up with the advertisements, as long as they're done in a sensible way, of course.
That's my whole thing. I don't care. Like you can, what is something is like vibrating here. Um, I don't care
You
what
know,
ads are in there.
you know who loves it? Roots. Never
With
mind.
a,
My
oh
mom!
yeah, she does. Well, I'll tell you, I don't care what the ads are, as long as there's something like I said, advertisement placement. You're going through Half-Life Alex and you find an old Coca-Cola bottle or whatever. I don't care. That's fine to me. That's kind of interesting. I just don't want to get stopped. I don't want to have advertisements in between rounds of Pop One or whatever game it is. Load into the screen and now instead of going to the load screen and starting the game, you've got a 30-second advertisement. What's worse than these games that make you go through the beginning of it every single time and you're watching this thing for 30 seconds? Well, I'll tell you what's worse. An advertisement for Depends or something that you don't want to be watching, right? And you're going to be stuck. And like you said, you're going to be forced to sit there and watch this thing to get into the game. And I think that's what people are worried about. As long as they don't do that kind of weird stuff, um, I'm fine. Because I don't know if there's already enough friction. That's another thing that, advertisements, sometimes I don't even want to sit through YouTube ads. Imagine when you're in the headset and now you're like, I'm just not even going to play. It's just one more thing that might stop people from going into VR, potentially.
Right. Right. So obviously, judging from the reactions in the chat and from all of the review bombing and all of the videos in the YouTube space, clearly people don't want the ads in VR, the generic idea, just the abstract idea of ads in VR. And I think, it's interesting to think about why that is. Obviously there's some level of, people just not trusting Facebook here, product placement. This is advertising, and this is advertising in VR. It's advertising that has always been in VR 100%. And it's something that we're just going to continue to see them iterate upon going forward. So I wouldn't, obviously I'm like everyone else. I come from a position of distrust of the corporation, but I'm not willing to pass judgment until they have committed the crime, so to speak. So that brings us to the last the last part of the discussion, in my opinion. Why now? Why is Facebook deciding that this is the time to roll this out? And a big thank you, by the way, to Wormsworth throwing us $10 in the chat. A pretty big donation there. Thank you very much, Wormsworth. You may now enjoy the rest of your program ad free.
Yeah,
Thanks for the support.
yeah. I just saw something happen for the first time, Wes. In the middle of our conversation there, the OBS literally disconnected and reconnected.
Yeah,
And that
I
is
noticed it too.
that is insane, bro. And I would understand if I was watching my network bounce all over, but man, I've had like some of the best frames I've ever seen. It's crazy.
Forbidden language, Roots. We're talking about forbidden topics.
That's true. Well, maybe we need to find the new lingo, the new words, the vocabulary that dances around the algorithm.
People that they just they don't like rational thought being applied to these emotional topics. They want people to be fighting mad, Roots.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Ray Delator has a
Anyway,
good point because Facebook wants their money back from selling us a $299 VR headset. And that's the biggest thing, man. And people need to realize this in life. Nothing is free. Anything that's, cheap or, subsidized somebody's expecting something from it. And Facebook didn't create the Quest 2 and take a loss on these headsets because they love us. They did it because they
Right.
want to make the mass adoption of VR a real thing. And I'm sure there's reasons behind it that we probably don't like. I think it is good that maybe not per se, because this is the way the life is. Everybody's knee jerk reaction is crazy, man, quick. Everybody is jumping to conclusions. But sometimes, like Traveling Man said earlier, sometimes the quick reaction will stop something dead in its tracks when it comes to corporations in a way that nothing else would. So I think in a weird way, this could actually benefit us as consumers. I just think people, now that we've voiced our opinion and we've let them know how we feel, now step back and let them, try to figure out what's going on. And if we start to see it happen again, we can voice our opinion again. But
Right. I'm sure that the reaction isn't all that surprising to them. They had to expect some backlash for it. Um, but I think what Ray's telling is somewhat correct here. Where the question is why now? And he says that they want to make back some of that money. Well, obviously, yeah, and this is obviously, this advertising is something that's been in the works all along from day one. This has been part of the plan. The question is why now? Why is it so sloppy? I feel like we're having this messy rollout now of the ad system before even Horizons has been launched. We're having this messy public rollout of this ad test. I think that this is because they're being forced to roll it out ahead of schedule. I think that the reason why they're doing such a sloppy, messy job of rolling this thing out is because they didn't really intend on doing it this soon. I think that there's a place in VR, like we just mentioned, for non-intrusive marketing in VR's future. The problem is that the tech isn't really here to support it yet. I think that big tech's vision for the future of VR looks a little something like this. There's going to be natural product placement that permeates every popular virtual space. Anything that there's a lot of people going into VR to do, there's going to be product placement. I think that they're going to use eye tracking tech that's going to collect data about what's grabbing your attention, what's holding your attention. Then, obviously, the algorithms will use this data to make suggestions to you outside of VR while you're browsing, while you're searching, while you're shopping. They're going to know more about what you want than you do, just based on the data they get from the new tech, the eye tracking, and whatever new bells and whistles come on these next generation of headsets. And I think that this is perfectly acceptable, and I think it's inevitable. I think this is where it was always going, and I really don't have a problem with that from a relative perspective. But again, I don't think that Facebook specifically had planned on doing this so soon. And I think that the recent leaks regarding the eye tracking technology on the Apple headset, on the Sony headset, have kind of forced Facebook to accelerate their schedule for Oculus Quest 3 or Quest 2 Pro, whatever you want to call it. Oculus Quest with eye tracking. I think that we're going to get that now sooner than they had planned on giving it to us. And I think that is why these hastily rolled out ad tests are happening right now. So I think it isn't so much a revelation for the future of the metaverse, but I think it is a revelation for the very near future of VR hardware. I think the game is about to change in a big way with the rollout of eye tracking on the next generation of headsets. And I think that at the end of the day, this sloppy rollout from Facebook, if anything, is just confirmation that Oculus Quest 3 is on the way.
they're around the corner, bro. And they're going to be eye tracking and all sorts of whistles and bells that we never dreamed of. So I
But
don't
it
know.
makes sense, right? Did anybody ever doubt that they were going to put things in VR? It might not even be ads. They might, get really in depth with it and place certain scenarios into the games, or or certain types of characters, and just to see what we're attracted to and what we're repelled by. This is the kind of data that they're collecting. We always talk about the data that Facebook's collecting. This is the type of stuff that they're doing, and we know that they're obviously doing it to create realistic models of human behavior for AI and machine learning, but they're also doing it for marketing purposes. And I don't think that that's such a bad thing. I just, like everyone else, don't want my immersion to be broken while they're doing so.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Gaming Science Teacher says she's okay with Coke cans, Snickers bars, Red Bull cans, but that might not be valuable enough for Facebook that they want to serve user targeted ads, and that would be exactly what the eye tracking could do, right? See what it might take a while for the AI to see what you're interested in, but once it's been on enough, it could be in the headset, right? It just is learning what you like, and it just starts feeding you certain advertisements in there. So,
Yeah, Dark Angel. Oof! I just saw They Live flash before my eyes.
ooh, consume.
Consume. Yeah, exactly.
It may already be there. We don't even know it.
Oh, for sure, it's already there, dude. Go Google some subliminal messaging advertising and watch a few videos on YouTube about that, and you'll see what world we've been living in for the last 50 years.
You know what's crazy about that, Wes? And you really wouldn't know unless you were me or somebody that's kind of stepped away from TV the most. There'll be times I'll be on the YouTube video or whatever, somewhere I'm forced to watch a commercial, and the types of commercials are so completely different than what used to be. And you don't notice it unless you've removed yourself for such a long time. And then all of a sudden you're like, what is this? Like, very bizarre, very dumbed down. That's why I say I feel like we're living in idiocracy, that the commercials are, it's like they're not even trying anymore. And it's a bizarre feeling to feel like, whoa, what happened, So
All right, so we are out of time, folks. So what are we taking away from today's lesson? One, this was always coming. Two, don't judge things before you see them. And three, Oculus Quest 3 confirmed. You heard it here first. If you're wondering what kind of hoops we had to jump to get to that, just scroll back 5 minutes, and and it all makes really good sense if you think about it in the way I'm thinking about it.
no,
But
how long?
anyway,
How long do you think?
if you liked it, how long? 2022 for sure. 2022 when the Apple headset's coming, when the Sony headset's coming, they'll probably be first. I'd say Facebook will be first. April. I think April 2022. We'll see Oculus
Wow.
Quest 3 or Quest 2 Pro, whatever you want to call it. We're going to see a Quest with eye tracking, most likely before summer next year.
Yeah. All right. Westradamus, you heard it here.
But anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, hit the big red button and the bell to stay up with all of our content. And then you're not going to have to wait long, Roots. Tomorrow, free stuff and killer deals and killer deals and killer deals and killer deals.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's gonna be a crazy episode.
There is a lot. We might have to actually break the Steam segment up into two parts and do one this week, one next week. There's so many games.
Well, the good news is that it's going until July 8th, so we absolutely can do that. So
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, again, hit the subscribe button. If you're not new to the channel and want to do a little something extra, you can do so by supporting us on Patreon. $3 a month gets you access to our weekly show notes. It gets you access to insider updates. It gets you access to the Money Show. And again, it's not $3 a day. It's not $3 a week. It's just $3 per month, and it goes to help grow this awesome community that we've all invested so much in. So thank you to those of you who are supporting, and thank you to those of you who are considering it.
yeah.
Of course, I'm sorry, Rich, I didn't mean to step on you there.
No, I was just gonna agree with you. I appreciate everybody that's helping support the stream in any way.
And of course, last but not least, those of you who are really sad that the episode's ending right now, those of you who want to continue to hang out, chat VR, talk about these bigger issues, or just shoot the shit with like-minded individuals, there is an invitation for you down below to come to our home and make it your home. The Virtual Strangers Discord. It is home for the hardcore VR gaming enthusiast. Come on, come all. We're leaving the lights on for you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to get a PlayStation 5, I could have got one today because of derail. You could be there. You could have your PS5. Just join the Discord.
Absolutely. And with that said, friends, we'd like to thank you all once again for watching. For Roots, I'm Wes. We will see you tomorrow. Literally tomorrow. Well, maybe Saturday. Maybe Saturday. Tomorrow or Saturday. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.